Every spring, millions of gardeners head out to their backyards with the exact same dream. We picture rows of towering, lush green tomato plants, their branches heavy with plump, juicy, deep red heirloom tomatoes that taste like pure sunshine. But for so many of us, that dream quickly turns into a frustrating reality. You buy the premium soil, you pick the most expensive hybrid seed varieties, and you water them religiously. Yet by midsummer, the plants look spindly and weak. The leaves start yellowing from the bottom up, flowers bloom but suddenly drop off without setting fruit, and the few tomatoes that do manage to grow end up with a horrific, sunken black patch at the bottom. Most gardeners don't know this, but the problem isn't your seeds, your watering schedule, or even your local climate. The real culprit is hidden right beneath the surface, in how the soil was prepared from the very first second that plant touched the ground. Years ago, I was caught in this exact same cycle of disappointment. I was spending a small fortune on synthetic fertilizers, blue powders, and chemical sprays, trying to force my tomato plants to produce. My backyard looked more like a chemistry lab than a garden, and the soil was becoming hard, lifeless, and compacted. One evening, while complaining about my pathetic harvest to an old family friend, a master gardener who had been growing prize-winning vegetables since the 1970s, she laughed and told me something that completely changed my perspective. She said, "You're trying to feed the plant, but you're forgetting to feed the soil." The secret to the sweetest, most abundant tomatoes isn't in a plastic bottle from a big box store. It's sitting right in your kitchen garbage can. She was talking about two of the most common kitchen waste products on earth: eggshells and used coffee grounds. Now, at first, I was incredibly skeptical. I had read online about people throwing eggshells into their garden beds, and it always seemed like an old wives' tale that did nothing but attract pests. But as she explained the actual science behind how these two ingredients interact with soil biology, it clicked. What happened next surprised me. I tried her exact precise method on just 3 of my tomato plants that season, leaving the rest to my usual routine. Within 4 weeks, the difference was so dramatic that my neighbors were stopping by my fence just to stare at those 3 plants. They were twice as thick, incredibly dark green, and eventually produced so many tomatoes that the wooden stakes literally snapped under the weight. To understand why this simple, natural combination works so miraculously, we have to look at what a tomato plant actually needs to build its structure. Tomatoes are incredibly heavy feeders, and they have a unique relationship with 2 specific nutrients: calcium and nitrogen. Let's start with calcium. Think of calcium as the mortar that holds the brick wall of your plant together. It is the fundamental building block of plant cell walls. When a tomato plant has access to abundant, easily absorbable calcium from day one, it develops thick, rigid stems that can easily support heavy fruit loads without bending or snapping. More importantly, calcium is the ultimate shield against the dreaded blossom end rot. This devastating condition occurs when the rapidly growing fruit cannot access enough calcium, causing the cells at the blossom end of the tomato to collapse and turn into a leathery, black, rotten mess. But here is where the real secret begins, and it is a detail that almost every beginner gardener misses. You can't just throw crushed eggshells into the dirt and expect the plant to heal itself. If you drop large pieces of eggshell into your planting hole, they will sit there, completely unchanged, for months or even years. The plant's roots cannot eat solid calcium carbonate. For the calcium to become bioavailable, meaning the plant can actually drink it in through its root system, it must be broken down chemically. This is where our second kitchen superstar, coffee grounds, enters the picture. Coffee grounds are highly celebrated in the gardening world for their rich nitrogen content, which is the fuel that drives lush, leafy green growth. But coffee grounds also have a slightly acidic nature when they are fresh, and even when used, they contain organic acids that stimulate soil microbes. When you combine finely pulverized eggshells with coffee grounds in a very specific way, you create a localized, slow-release nutrient powerhouse. The natural acids and active microorganisms stimulated by the coffee grounds slowly break down the calcium in the eggshells, transforming it into a soluble form that the young tomato roots can easily absorb. It is a perfect, self-sustaining loop of nutrition that mimics the forest floor. Now that we understand the powerful synergy between these two household ingredients, Let's talk about how to prepare them correctly. This is the step many people skip, and it is the exact reason why some gardeners try this method, but fail to see results. You cannot simply crack an egg, throw the wet shell into the soil, and dump a cup of hot coffee grounds on top of it. Doing that will only attract raccoons, ants, and create a foul odor that will make your backyard unbearable. To prepare your eggshells, start by saving them in a container in your kitchen. Each time you use an egg, thoroughly rinse the inside of the shell with warm water to remove any leftover egg white or yolk. This membrane can harbor unwanted bacteria and cause unpleasant odors if left untreated. Once rinsed, lay the shells out on a dry paper towel or a baking sheet to dry completely. If you want to speed up the process and sterilize them at the same time, you can pop them into a warm oven at 200 degrees Fahrenheit for about 10 to 15 minutes. This makes the shells incredibly brittle and easy to work with. Once your eggshells are bone dry and crispy, it is time for the transformation. Put about 2 to 3 dozen dried eggshells into a high-powered blender or a clean coffee grinder. Grind them until they are reduced to an incredibly fine, flour-like powder. When you look at this powder, it should feel like dust between your fingers. By grinding the eggshells to this microscopic level, you have increased their surface area by thousands of times. Instead of a few large pieces of shell sitting uselessly in the soil, you now have billions of microscopic calcium particles. When these tiny particles come into contact with the moisture, natural soil acids, and beneficial fungi in your garden bed, they dissolve rapidly, releasing essential calcium ions directly into the root zone exactly when the young plant needs it most. Next, let's prepare the coffee grounds. For this method, we want to use used coffee grounds, not fresh ones. Fresh coffee grounds are highly acidic and contain high levels of caffeine, which can actually stunt the growth of young plants. The brewing process strips away most of the excess acidity and caffeine, leaving behind a beautifully balanced, nitrogen-rich organic material. After brewing your morning cup of coffee, spread the wet grounds out on a flat tray to air dry for a day or two. Storing wet coffee grounds in a closed container will quickly lead to green mold, so ensuring they are completely dry before use is vital. Dry coffee grounds are incredibly easy to spread and blend seamlessly into your soil mixture. With our customized nutrient powders ready, we can now move out to the garden bed to prepare the perfect home for our tomato plant. The way you dig and prepare your planting hole is the foundation of your plant's entire life cycle. Take your shovel and dig a hole that is about 20 to 25 centimeters deep, which is roughly 8 to 10 inches. The width of the hole should be about twice as wide as the root ball of your tomato transplant. As you dig, pay close attention to the texture of your soil. If you hit heavy clay or hard compacted dirt, do not just leave it. Use your garden fork to loosen the soil at the very bottom and along the sides of the hole. Tomato roots are incredibly adventurous, but they are also sensitive. If they hit a hard wall of compacted clay, they will stop growing outward and begin to circle the hole, becoming root-bound and severely limiting the plant's ability to take up water and nutrients during the hot summer months. Loose, crumbly, well-aerated soil allows the delicate root hairs to spread effortlessly, anchoring the plant firmly against strong winds and heavy summer storms. Furthermore, loose soil ensures that oxygen can reach the root zone. Many people forget that roots need to breathe just as much as leaves do. Without proper aeration, roots can quickly suffocate and rot. Now we are ready to build the secret nutrient reservoir at the very bottom of our planting hole. This is where we create a localized zone of high fertility that will feed our tomato plant from the inside out. First, take your finely ground eggshell powder, measure out approximately 2 to 3 tablespoons of this calcium dust, and sprinkle it evenly across the loose soil at the bottom of the hole. It should look like a light dusting of snow. Next, take your dry, used coffee grounds. Add exactly 2 tablespoons of the grounds directly on top of the eggshell powder. Now here is a critical step that many gardeners overlook. Do not place your tomato plant directly on top of these raw ingredients. Although they are completely natural, concentrated coffee grounds and pure calcium powder can be slightly too intense for the tender, sensitive roots of a young transplant. Instead, take a handful of the native soil you dug out of the hole and toss it back in, lightly mixing it with the eggshell and coffee powder. This creates a thin, protective buffer zone of soil. This buffer zone ensures that as the young roots grow downward, they will gradually encounter this nutrient-rich layer, rather than being shocked by it immediately. At this point, we are ready to introduce our tomato transplant to its new home. But before you place it in the hole, take a close look at the plant itself. If you notice that the lower leaves are starting to turn a pale, sickly yellow, or if the stem looks thin, purple, and woody, these are classic distress signals. A purple stem often indicates a phosphorus deficiency, usually caused by cold soil temperatures that prevent the plant from absorbing nutrients. Yellowing lower leaves mean the plant is starving for nitrogen and is actively pulling nutrients from its oldest leaves to keep the new growth alive. If you see these signs, do not panic. Our dual-action planting method is designed to cure these exact issues. Take your tomato transplant and gently slide it out of its plastic pot. If the roots are tightly bound and wrapping around the root ball, gently tease them apart with your fingers to encourage them to grow outward. Now place the plant into the center of the hole. Here is another professional secret. Tomatoes are one of the few plants in the vegetable garden that love to be buried deep. If you look closely at the stem of a tomato plant, you will see hundreds of tiny fuzzy hairs. Every single one of those tiny hairs has the genetic potential to transform into a fully functioning root if it comes into contact with moist soil. Therefore, you should bury your tomato plant deep, up to the first set of true leaves. If your transplant is tall and leggy, you can even pinch off the bottom few sets of leaves and bury the stem deep into the ground. By doing this, you are forcing the plant to build a massive, robust root system. A larger root system means the plant can access water from deep underground during droughts, making it incredibly resilient and self-sufficient. Slowly fill the soil back into the hole around the stem of the plant. As you fill, use your hands to gently press down on each layer of soil to eliminate any large air pockets. However, be careful not to compact the soil too tightly. You want the soil to be firm enough to hold the plant upright and stable, but loose enough that water can drain freely and air can circulate around the root zone. Once the plant is securely in place, water it thoroughly using clean, lukewarm water. Do not add any liquid fertilizers at this stage. Right now, the plant is experiencing transplant shock. Its roots have been disturbed, its environment has changed, and it needs time to stabilize and adapt. Adding heavy liquid fertilizers immediately after planting can burn the damaged root tips and stress the plant further. For the first 5 to 7 days, your only job is to keep the soil consistently moist, not soggy, allowing the roots to settle in and begin exploring their new home. What happened next in my garden and what will happen in yours is where the real magic of this method reveals itself. After about a week, the transplant shock will wear off, and the young roots will begin to penetrate the deep nutrient reservoir we built at the bottom of the hole. To supercharge this growth phase, we are going to introduce an incredibly powerful homemade liquid fertilizer, coffee ground tea. This is a highly concentrated, easily absorbable liquid nutrient solution that acts like an organic energy drink for your plants. To make this tea, add 2 tablespoons of dry, used coffee grounds to 1 liter of warm water. Stir the mixture vigorously for a few minutes, then cover it and let it steep in a warm, dark place for 12 to 24 hours. Using warm water is essential because the heat helps to quickly dissolve the water-soluble nitrogen, potassium, and beneficial organic compounds locked inside the coffee grounds. As the mixture sits, these nutrients diffuse into the water, creating a stable, nutrient-dense liquid. After the steeping period is complete, pour the mixture through a fine mesh strainer or a piece of cheesecloth to remove all of the solid grounds. You want to keep only the rich, dark brown liquid. When you are ready to apply this tea for the very first time, it is best to dilute it. Mix the coffee tea with clean water at a 1-to-1 ratio. This dilution helps the young, developing root system adapt to the sudden influx of nutrients without causing fertilizer burn. Pour approximately 200 to 300 milliliters of this diluted solution directly onto the soil around the base of each tomato plant. Be extremely careful to water only the soil and avoid getting any of the liquid directly on the green stem or leaves. Wet stems can create a humid microclimate that invites fungal pathogens, such as early blight or collar rot, to take hold. By watering in a wide circle around the base of the plant, you also encourage the roots to spread outward in search of moisture, building a wider, stronger root network. To keep your tomato plants growing in perfect, beautiful balance, we are going to establish a simple, alternating weekly routine. This is the exact rhythm that master gardeners use to achieve professional-grade results. During week 1, apply the coffee ground tea. This provides a gentle, easily absorbable boost of nitrogen, which stimulates rapid vegetative growth, helping the plant develop thick, sturdy stems and lush, deep green leaves that can maximize photosynthesis. During week 2, switch to an eggshell water treatment. To make this, simply steep 2 tablespoons of your pulverized eggshell powder in a liter of water with a splash of organic apple cider vinegar for 24 hours. The mild acid in the vinegar reacts with the calcium carbonate, creating calcium acetate, which is highly water-soluble. Dilute this mixture with water and apply it to the plant. This delivers a direct dose of bioavailable calcium, strengthening the cellular structure of the stems and preparing the plant for the upcoming flowering stage. Repeat this alternating cycle every 7 to 10 days throughout the growing season. The results became visible just days later. By week 3, you will notice that the stems of your tomato plants are becoming remarkably thick, almost as wide as a broom handle. The leaves will take on a deep, vibrant forest green color, and the overall plant will have a robust, bushy appearance rather than looking tall, leggy, and weak. By week 5, the real show begins. Your plants will start producing clusters of bright yellow blossoms. Because of the abundant calcium in their system, these blossoms will remain firmly attached to the plant, resisting the blossom drop that plagues so many gardens. Soon those yellow flowers will drop away to reveal tiny, perfect green tomatoes. As the weeks progress, these fruits will grow rapidly, their skin remaining flawless, smooth, and entirely free of any black, sunken spots. By late summer, your garden will be filled with heavy trusses of stunning, bright red tomatoes that are packed with flavor, incredibly firm and beautifully formed. By utilizing these 2 simple, everyday kitchen ingredients, you are not only saving money and reducing waste, but you are also working in perfect harmony with nature to build a thriving, sustainable soil ecosystem. If you found this guide helpful and want to see more practical, science-backed gardening secrets, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your fellow gardeners. Don't forget to drop a comment below and let me know if you've ever tried using eggshells or coffee grounds in your garden, or share your own favorite natural fertilizer recipes. Happy gardening, and may you have the most abundant, delicious tomato harvest of your life.